Third place.
Ah! Da, da, da! Two-time! Two-time America's Strongest Man, 105 kilo. So happy to say that. I've been saying it to myself for so long, but it finally came true. So here we are. So this is the American Strongest Man recap video. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about my experience, talk a little bit about the competitors and the events. But what a show it was. I can tell you that before we get started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, notification bell so you don't miss the other videos and you get to see all my videos coming forward. But I want to start out with some quick thank yous to start off the video, especially to my loving fiance who was by my side this whole prep and pretty much carried me through this weight cut. So thank you, Abigail. My mother for making out the trip, my family, friends, training partners, my recovery team, all my group chats for all the support. I want to thank all you guys. And then regarding the contest, thank you to Anthony Furman, Ariana, and the Strength League crew for hosting the show. Thank you to Strongman Corporation, which is the federation which held the contest. The judges, Brian Bune and Davey Waters, thank you for coming out. The state chair, Blake Harris, for helping out the show. Adam and Kim Dirks provided all the equipment, so thank you guys for providing that. And thank you to the Southside crew and all the volunteers that helped run the show. So it couldn't have been possible without you guys. But yeah, winning back-to-back America's Strongest Man was pretty neat. And it puts me kind of in pretty good company, even with other top competitors like Zach McCarley, who did it twice. He went back-to-back, winning 3 total America's Strongest Mans. Sean D. Marinas, who also went back-to-back twice as well, winning 4 total shows, and he is my personal friend, personal mentor. So just the fact that doing something that he did is super cool. Other guys like Justin Blake in the late 2000s, and there was also a guy named Jared Spybrook who won twice. So being accompanied with those guys, multiple America's Strongest Man winners, is pretty cool honor. So the prep for America's Strongest Man, so I did a 12-week prep, pretty much did 3 weeks deload, 3 weeks deload, 3 weeks deload, compete. And it went great. Every block was smooth, stayed healthy, my back got better, each block went through. And even the last block, I felt that I just crushed every workout. Every workout was on point, so felt really good on that. So if you guys are interested in that last block, I got 2 blogs that you guys can check out on the YouTube channel. But during the 12-week prep, I knew my weight was going to be probably the biggest battle. I quickly got up to 260 at the start in the first block. And I was pretty much doing everything I can to kind of like diet down. It was a really big effort just to stay 254, 255. And then when I started the water load, so usually that's going to be 6 days out from the weigh-in. So it was that Saturday and we weighed in on Friday. I was 254.4. So I knew I was in for a battle, and that's usually 5 pounds heavier than I am compared to other cuts like last year for Worlds, for Clash, for America's Strongest Man. So coming in a little bigger, grew over the year. So I knew that was going to be really tough. But water load wise, I ran my usual protocol. Again, I have another YouTube. If you want to go search on my, if you want to go search in my instructional videos, you can find that in the video playlists. But usually I do 1.5, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3 gallons. So it's a 5-day water load, and then the last day, no carbs, no salt. It helps kind of flush everything out. So usually the water load will help me get to probably take off anywhere between 7 and 8 pounds. This load, it took about like 7.5 pounds off. So the Thursday when I have no water and it's time to kind of like to pull the water out, I was actually like 247, roughly about like 16 pounds away from the weight. So I started with kind of like a infrared sauna. I found at a gym nearby, and right out of the gate, probably spent in and out. I was in the sauna for about an hour and a half, hour 45, and I took about like 7 pounds off. So I immediately got down to around like 240. But One thing I just wasn't really kind of expecting is how much water taking out that much water that fast was really tough on my stomach. Ended up kind of gagging a couple hours later. So I kind of had to kind of recover from that before I started pulling more water out. And whenever you're doing like a weight cut like this and your stomach goes, you always know it's going to be a really tough one. So especially when the stomach starts kind of feeding for water, it can get really tough. So the rest of that afternoon, I kind of really more just kind of focused on kind of baths. I ended up doing kind of 3 baths throughout the night. The water wasn't quite getting hot enough, so we also boiled some water and put it into the baths to make it really extra hot, to get so extra sweat. But I was able to squeeze out some more pounds, and I think I went to bed around 235.4, which was pretty good. So only like 4 pounds off from the actual weight. The morning of, I kind of had to hit the sauna one more time, and I thought that would probably be the best way to pull water. But when doing these type of weight cuts, I know that the last 3 or 4 pounds are going to be the absolute hardest, and it really was. So went back into the sauna. I was pulling the water out, but after kind of like the first big session that I had, ended up throwing up again, mostly kind of like stomach bile, which again I didn't like. I don't recommend it, but I came in just super heavy, so I just had to really kind of push it forward, do what I had to do, and this is kind of like the first time this has kind of happened, compared to some of my other cuts. Actually, it happened one other time in Hungary in 2019, but out of the 18-20 water cuts I've done, it's happened. So I think it was doing. I always kind of recommend it to other competitors, this kind of like sweet sweat, or sweat sticks that kind of help pull the water out. But I don't know if those things were too old, a year old or something like that. I didn't buy a new package from the year before, so I wonder if putting that back in my body really kind of upset my stomach compared to other years. So something that I'll have to kind of play around with come OSG prep in 6 weeks. So I ended up making weight. So I made weight in the gym. Abby picked me up. We headed down to Southside Strength, which is Adam and Kim Dirks' gym. The weigh-ins are at 8. Made weight easily. I think I was a pound under. So just I always try to sometimes at least do 0.6 off from my scale. So I just know that there's no chance. There's no chance that I'm not going to make weight. And then I started the kind of the rehydration process. So immediately did 2 IV bags. I usually do like a ringer, and then of course a pure kind of saline bag. But just all those liquids just coming back to my body. I was almost kind of shaking and convulsing during the actual rehydration, even with the pressure bags that the nurse had. But it was what was needed. I really needed those IV bags. And then Mike Cogden was even so nice too, was like, Camby, do you want my sweatshirt? And I was just the point where I was like, I'm going to ruin that sweatshirt. I'm still sweating. So it was a very nice sweatshirt. So I didn't want to ruin Mr. Mike's sweatshirt. So, but I of course appreciate that thought. And of course, especially going to these competitions, competitors are always super helpful, especially if look like you're dying at weigh-ins. So contest time, or for the rest of the day, focused on like the refueling process. So did a couple breakfasts, had lunch, had a steak dinner with potatoes. That's usually kind of my go-to. Did different walks throughout the day. I pretty much try to walk after each of those meals, so you'd be hungry for the next meal, just to keep everything moving, keep everything where it should be. And then went to bed around 11 o'clock to wake up at 7 o'clock for the competition. So I think I woke up around 2:53 that morning, and when I came back from the contest, I was around 2:57. So I just about pretty much competed in the mid 250s, high 250s when I was competing. So putting back 25 pounds back on my weight. So the contest was held at the Nashville Barrel Company. We had 13 competitors. We had 7 pros, 6 amateurs that made it through the qualifiers. One of those amateurs being Mike Cogden, who I just mentioned before, earning his pro card at the end of the day. So that was Really excited. Mike's been really kind of working hard in the strongman scene, so it was great to see him finish the day with a pro card. But we had a pretty good list of competitors, all guys that have done well on podium at Clash, other ASMs. So we had a pretty neat kind of group of people, but ended up having 4 Texans, which is pretty neat. Or of course, Texas always represents at all these different shows. So the events as follows: we had a max circus dumbbell, we had a car deadlift, yoke medley. Those are the first 3 events. I knew those were going to be in my wheelhouse. I know those are going to be good events. Power stairs, I haven't done a power stair since 2014 as an amateur. So that was at the Arnold Amateur. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. I knew, of course, how to train it, what to train it. I had guys like Eric Dawson, Mike O'Connor, and some other training partners look at it to see kind of how I was doing, but they thought I was had a pretty good setup for it and a pretty good training, so I wasn't too nervous about it. But the last event was a sandbag mystery event, so working on carrying, pressing, shouldering, loading, just so I would be ready for kind of whatever that sandbag mystery is. But historically, I've been pretty good at sandbag events at America's Strongest Man, so I knew it was, again, going to be pretty solid. But in terms of kind of strategy, and again, for any competitor, and again, something to really kind of consider if you're looking to kind of win these kind of shows or do really well, the goal is always to beat every competitor or a certain amount of competitors more than 50% of the events. So this contest was 5 events. So if you wanna win the contest, you got to beat every competitor at least 3 out of 5 events. If there's 6 events, you got to do 4 out of 6. If there's 7 events, you got to do 4 out of 7. But if you get over that threshold, even for me, statistically, I have pretty much like a 95% chance of winning the show if I again get to that threshold. So that's always my goal. And then leading into the show, of course, you see the roster, you see everybody's strengths, and not only am a competitor, but kind of a researcher, a student of the sport, so I have a pretty good idea of who's good at what. So I knew that Jesse Nelson was going to be my biggest competition. Jesse literally just gets better every time he competes. This year alone, he took second at a Clash qualifier, won a Clash qualifier in California, took 4th at the Clash of the finals, and even that contest, he looked great. He looked huge, bigger than ever. So I knew that Jesse was going to be pretty much going to be my main competition. And we've even had so many great battles at America's Strongest Man. So this is my 3rd Strongest Man contest with Jesse. He beat me back in 2019 when Terry Rady won. So he took 4th, I took 5th. In 2020, I ended up winning. All right, sorry, I got a little cut off there. So what I was saying is, in 2020, me and Jesse, we battled all day. The last event came down to a sandbag load. Ended up kind of pulling that out, but I ended up taking second. He took 3rd, right behind Anthony Deal. So at that point, it was 1-1. And then Jesse didn't compete last year at America's Strongest Man. He was still dealing with some hip issues, but he was feeling, of course, much better this year around. So I knew that, again, competing against Jesse, he was going to be my main guy that I had to kind of keep an eye out for. So 2022 was the grudge match of the ASMs. So going through the events, we started off with the max dumbbell. The max dumbbell was something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Originally, we actually had a dumbbell medley, but I asked Anthony Furman, I asked all the guys if they'd be cool to kind of switch it to a max dumbbell. A lot of guys were psyched, especially Tommy Sharp. Tommy thought he had a pretty good chance of doing the dumbbell, so we ended up getting that switched 8-9 weeks out. But again, it ended up being a pretty fun event. We started weights at 180 pounds, and of course worked our way up to 20-pound increments. So a lot of guys, I think everybody kind of hit 185. Some guys fell out around 200. I started the first attempt at 220, ended up going 220, 240, 260, and then going for the record at 285. So after 240, we had about 5 guys. So Luke Meredith and Jesse ended up hitting 240. They instead of going for 260, they decided to go for 250, but unfortunately they both missed 250, so they both tied for 3rd. with 240 pounds. And then going to 260, me and Tommy both hit 260. So it was on for the world record. So the previous world record was held by Marczewski of Poland. He hit that back, I want to say, probably, I think it was about 2019 or 2020. So the record's been around for a couple of years. So he hit it on a cylinder dumbbell. So we wanted to do something similar. So again, something that international guys can also attribute to. I went first. I went on the dumbbell. I knew going to that dumbbell I had to have pretty much everything had to be spot on. So I really made sure to kind of warm up my bend. A good hips in the knees, good dip in the hips. So sorry, a good bend in the hips and a good bend in the knees. And I really had to really push that up and again, drop under it. So I really kind of had to widen my feet. So I had to do 6 or 7 different things to really hit that dumbbell. And it took everything that I needed to, took every ounce of me to hit that dumbbell. The way it kind of sits, it kind of sit into my kind of shoulder. I usually externally kind of rotate with the elbows, kind of internally rotate in the shoulder. So I was able to really kind of extend it out. But man, once the minute that was locked out, I locked eyes with Brian and just waited for his down call. But probably could held it for probably another split second, if needed. And then Tommy went for the record. He hit like 270 and 280 in training. But unfortunately he was just shy of locking that out. So got the world record, 4 for 4 for world record attempts, which is awesome. So just the fact I've never missed a world record attempt is pretty cool. But unfortunately, I have 3 world records and 1 American record because Emmanuel Pasquari of Austria decided to break the log record a week before America's Strongest Man. So pretty much I was hoping to have the sweep of the 4 major implements heading into that, but maybe go after the log record some other time. But Emmanuel ended up breaking the record at 190 kilos or 418 pounds with a push press, which is exceptional. So moving on to the car deadlift, we ended up deadlifting Anthony's Charger. And it was kind of a little bit of a rep fest. I don't think the guys exactly knew how the frame was going to kind of correlate with that Charger. But a lot of guys end up getting like 15 reps, 16 reps. There was like a 4 or 5-way tie for 19 reps. Ended up tying Frank Pisano with 20 reps total. I ended up going last, so I got the chance to watch everybody go in front of me. But I knew, of course, Frank was going to be the guy to be on this event. So, and then we were talking before the contest that Frank really wanted to be the sole winner of the deadlift. Last year we ended up tying on the deadlift as well. Last year we had a max deadlift on a barbell and on Texas long bar. We both ended up hitting 785. So 2 years in a row we tied on the deadlift at America's Strongest Man. America's Strongest Man. The next event was the yoke walk, and we went from 800, 900 to 1,000 pounds. I was pretty interested to see how everybody was going to do on this because I watched everybody's training. A lot of guys went for 1,000 pounds really early in their prep. I think that you only have so many 1,000-pound yokes in you as a 231. So I think you really got to focus on kind of peaking the right time. So this event, Jesse ended up beating me on the yoke by 0.16 of a second. So it was super close between us. But Jesse has beaten me on yoke before at ASM 2019. So I knew, again, he was going to be the man to beat on this particular event. But the yoke, all the yokes were super stable. The last one was probably the most stable, but it was just a very dense 1,000-pound yoke. So it was pretty tough. But most guys ended up finishing it. Everybody had like really good runs on it. We ended up having about like 16, 17 feet just about in terms of what we ran in that space that we were working in. And then the next event was the power stairs. So power stairs was, again, first time doing it since 2014. So I didn't have too many expectations. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen, but it was going to be fast. The implements were 345 and 375 up 4 steps, but we had to duck walk them first, similar to what World's Strongest Man did in 2022 this past year. So Tommy Sharp ended up getting the win at 19 seconds. Then Cogden got 19.9. McQuiston got 19.3, and I ended up getting 19.39. So I ended up taking fourth, but I was only about 0.4 of a seconds away from the winner. So it's always tough when you lose events by a half a second, but it was one of those kind of foot races. I did have a hesitation in one of those in one of the runs, so that's probably where I ended up losing a couple points there. But at this point, just the way my performance was going, I had about 11-point lead going into the last event. So for the most part, there was not much I could. I had to do a lot to really kind of mess this up. And again, sandbag is usually a good event. So the sandbag mystery event ended up being a kind of a little more of kind of a medley. So we ended up doing a sandbag press with 220 pounds, and then you had to run over and grab a 300-pound or 320-pound sandbag, carry it around the barrel, and then come back and shoulder it. And then the minute you shoulder it, time stops. So Tommy Sharp ended up winning this event again. Jesse came in second. I came in third. And then Cogden ended up taking fourth in the event. But of course, there were a lot of good runs between the other individuals, and getting in probably like the kind of like the early 20 seconds. And then of course, those are the events. And so I also want to talk about the other athletes. So with everybody that was there, so we had 13 competitors. So of course, kind of start off in 13th, we had DJ Doggett. So DJ's from Texas. This was his 6th contest ever, so he made it through the amateurs, but we were all proud of him in terms of kind of stepping up. This was heading in a contest that was way out of his comfort zone, but he got a lot of great experience, and I think we're going to see more of DJ at some of these big shows. In 12th place, we had Nate Bowling. Nate's of course, a savvy veteran of the sport. I've been competing at ASM with Nate since 2018. I think Nate, he had, of course, a lot of great glimpses, but was fighting a stomach bug the week before, and he also qualified for Clash, taking third at the Clash Waco show a few weeks prior. I think that was September 10th, so a really quick turnaround, and that's no easy feat to do 2 weight cuts in a month. In 11th place, we had Shane Darrow. I competed with Shane at OSG as well. He's out of Ohio, at OSG of last year. Shane was a little banged up. We were, of course, talking prior to the contest. He decided to go for a 550-pound front squat 2 weeks out and hurt his back a little bit. So I think that was a little more of a learning experience not to go too heavy on accessory lifts prior to the contest. In 10th place, we had Matt Powell. So Matt Powell is Bob Schwantz's training partner. I've seen Matt at some of the other kind of class shows. He's a little bit undersized, so he's coming up from 200 pounds. So he was kind of like a light 231, but he had a great yoke time. He ended up taking third right behind me, and he has, again, really great glimpses and a lot of great events. So I think we're going to see more of Mr. Matt. In 9th, we had Richie Muchigemba. Richie's a great competitor. Similar situation with kind of Nate. He competed 3 weeks ago. He took second at the Clash of the Waco show. So I think he, again, doing kind of 2 weight cuts, doing a short prep and heading into America's Strongest Man is no easy feat. So, but again, he really did it for the experience because he really wants to be a well-rounded athlete. So he's not afraid to get in the trenches and fight. In 8th place, we had the return of Luke Meredith. So Luke Meredith is a good buddy of mine. We've competed over the years. The first time we competed, I think, was back in Indiana in 2016 for a official strongman qualifying event for Worlds. But Luke he had a kind of a gruesome knee injury and this is his first contest back, so he's feeling much better. He finished the contest healthy, which is a huge motivation boost. So excited to keep seeing Luke at these other contests. In 7th place, we have Matthew McQuiston. So he was a Nashville native, so he was competing in front of his home crowd. Really, he's a pretty big guy. He's taller than I expected. but he's really athletic. He has some kind of great events. I think he probably needs to work a little bit more when it comes to kind of like the static strength. But I think he's going to be a kind of a great competitor. He has a great press. I've seen his presses before. And he was doing pretty well at the Clash of the Nashville show, or the Clash on Cumberland early in the year. But I think he ended up hurting himself in that contest. So this is his first contest back. So again, we're going to see more of Mr. McQuiston. Sixth place, we have Mr. Frank Pro. Again, Frank had a great contest, tying, pretty much winning the deadlift event. Frank also got his pro card at this show last year, so this was kind of his first contest back. But we will also see more of Mr. Frank at OSG. So I think of course, this is a good contest to kind of shake some of the rust off, and I think he's gonna be ready for OSG. He's actually gonna be coming up to Massachusetts in late October, so we're gonna get a training session, and so maybe I'll make a vlog out of that. So you guys stay tuned. In fifth place, we had Mr. Dad. We had Mr. Bob Schwantz. Of course, Bob is just another savvy veteran that just keeps competing and keeps getting better. And he's had a pretty good year. Of course, making the Clash finals, qualifying for next year's Clash finals by placing at the Clash of the OC, and then taking a top 5 finish. And of course, fifth place is always a special place in my heart at America's Strongest Man, because I took fifth place 3 times in my career. So Bob taking his first fifth place finish. In fourth place, we had Tommy Sharp. So this was a very close battle between Tommy Sharp and Mike Cogden. Mike Cogden got 45.5 points. Tommy Sharp got 45 points. So Tommy just missed the podium again. So he's kind of been in this situation the last couple of years. But Tommy it's not really an if, it's kind of when kind of Tommy kind of puts it all together. And he's still pretty young. He's still under 30, so we're going to see more of Tommy Sharp. But he ended up winning the last 2 events. When he cleans up his deadlift, he's going to be something to really watch out for. So the podium, we have Mr. Mike Cogden. So Mike ended up taking 3rd, and then since he was the amateur and ended up getting podium, he earned his pro card, which is huge. Mike has really been fighting for that for years. And of course, I think it really means a lot to him. So I was really proud of Mike. Mike battled all weekend, and he put on a great show. In second place, we had, of course, my boy Jesse Nelson. And of course, again, Jesse had a great show, hitting a 240 dumbbell. Of course, won the yoke. Did well in the car deadlift, power stairs, he was very strong, and then of course the sandbag event, taking 2nd. So Jesse had a great show all around. But just something you guys consider, Jesse's also a pretty young competitor, 27, 28 years old. So in a couple of years, all these dudes, Jesse, Cogden, Tommy, Frank, all these guys are going to keep battling out. So it's going to be pretty exciting for all these guys. So excited to be potentially competing with them. And then overall, just super pumped that, again, with 7 America's Strongest Men, so finishing out, I just never thought I would actually get to 7. I think I was happy to even go into my first couple, but let alone 7. So coming out with 2 wins, again, puts me in a pretty good group of guys. So hopefully I can kind of continue the success, continue this momentum heading into the official Strongman Games. So there's a little outlook on that. I think there's going to be, I counted like 49, 50 competitors that are listed at 231s heading into OSG. So that's going to be a nuts type of show. Last year, there were probably like 10 dropouts out of the weight, our weight last year. So we had like 33 signed up and then 24 guys. So 9 dropouts. So 24 guys end up competing. So it will be interesting if we have 40 competitors in the class. That's probably the biggest that numbers that we've had at official Strongman Games. So all those events are really good for me. So I'm looking to kind of defend my title, keep up the momentum. I'm definitely going to have some big training vlogs coming up to it. I've been mentioning like Frank's going to come up this weekend. I'm training with the Great Goliath. So I'm very excited to start of course, the prep. But make sure to like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, and stay tuned for the next videos. But thank you for watching the channel. Thank you for guys all the support. And until next time, stay strong.